All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Movie Mates podcast. I'm back here with my co-host Connor Newton for another episode this week, episode number 20. And this in this episode, we're going to do talk about a movie of my choice. And I know I said last week that I was going to choose a movie that's not great. I know I said I would choose a movie that we wouldn't enjoy really and have a lot of critiques of, but I lied. I lied. I thought about it, and I had to choose a movie it's just so fun, and it's called Tag. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. It came out, I think, Connor, I think in 2018. I want to say, yeah, 2018. So not long ago, like two and a half years ago or so, 3 years ago, and I love this movie, and I'll get into it as we talk about it. But I've seen this movie two, maybe three times before, at least two times before. So I've seen this a bunch of times, and it's just a really fun movie. Everyone I watch it with, we just have a great time with it. I know some people, Connor, who, not me, but some people I know, it's like in their like top three all time. Like they just think it's such a
Wait,
great
who
movie.
says that? Who says that?
Just a friend of mine. He really loves this movie. And maybe not in terms of like storytelling or plot, but just how fun it is. And he just really enjoys it. Same way I have Top Gun in like my top five all time. It's just one of those classic movies. But Connor, I wanted to ask you, like, had you seen this movie before? What are your thoughts about this movie generally, like going in?
Yeah, so I saw this movie in theaters, but like you said, that was a couple years ago, so I didn't remember exactly how it. I going into the movie, I kind of forgot how it ended. All I could really remember was like the wedding scene.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot most of the movie besides that, but like as I was watching it, I remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my experience with this movie. I know you said you watched it like 3 or 4 times. Like, why have you watched it so much? And why did you decide to pick it again? Like, why did you want to do it?
It's hard to answer that last question, but why I picked it again. The best answer I could give is just I was just scrolling through movies, and I saw this movie, and I just wanted to watch it again. It's just, I'm telling you, it's just one of those fun movies. And why I've seen it so many times is because each time I've seen it with different people. Like I saw it in theaters, like you did, with some friends. And then I watched it at school, at college, with a few other friends. And then I watched it. I think this is the third time I've seen it. And I just wanted to watch it again. It's been like a year and a half since I've seen it last. And I don't know. It's one of those movies that I can sit down and just have fun watching. And I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. So watching with different people, made me want to keep watching it because, I feel like this is one of those movies where you watch it for the first time or watch it with people who haven't seen it for the first time, or seen it for the first time. I think it's just a lot of fun. So that's kind of why I've watched it.
Yeah, I guess it's a good movie to watch with people,
Yeah. It's just fun to watch with people. And
yes.
I don't know I think it's just, the whole premise is fun. So basically, if anyone doesn't know, the premise of this movie is based on a true story, which I find even more cool. It's based on an actual group of people, actual group of guys who did this when they were kids. It's a group of people who play tag together, and they've played tag together for, Connor, I think it's 30 plus years, ever since they were 9 years old, I think it was. So they've been playing their whole lives. For every year during the month of May, they play tag. And even if they live in different cities, they have different jobs, they live in different areas, they still play tag, and they like find ways to surprise each other and tag each other. And I just think it's really cool. I just think it's really neat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on like the premise before we get.
Oh no, I think it's a great idea. I think that you don't often come across a comedy film based off of real life. So it's interesting to see that, because obviously, as opposed to a drama film, which I think would more strictly adhere to like exactly what happened in real life, like this one is just a very loose adaptation of like the concept of these people like tagging each other and like surprising each other. It's like, I don't think any of the characters are actually based on any real particular people who are involved in that. The plot is like, I'm pretty sure like totally made up with like them just trying to tag this one guy.
I would hope so.
Who can't like, who's like a ninja or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a good premise to make a movie about.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. And I mean, It starts off with, it just starts off with such a great scene, in my opinion. It starts off with, who ends up being, I guess you could say, the main character. I mean, there's not really a main character in this movie, but I guess you could say the main character in Hogan, or Hoagie, as he's otherwise known, trying to tag his friend, Bob, who is working, he's a CEO at a company, and he tries to tag him.
Yeah. That is a good opening scene. I also like how like the very, very first opening moments of the movie are like little kids running. And it's like that song. It's like, can't keep running away.
Yeah, it's like the theme.
Song.
That's like the song of the movie.
Yeah. I like that. And it's like they're running in slow motion, and I don't know, that kind of, it feels like fun from that first little moment there,
I agree. But anyway, yeah. So this first scene, Hoagie goes really hardcore. You see right off the bat, he gets a job. He gets hired as a janitor just to get in the same room as his friend, the CEO, so he can tag him, so he can trap him, and he eventually does. And I just like, Connor, I think part of this reason I like this movie is because it combines like comedy with like action, right? Because they chase each other, right? And it also over dramatizes every like scene, right? Every time they tag each other, like, he has a whole disguise and he turns around like slowly. He's like, haha, like, got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like
I do like the style of
moments.
that. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can hear like what they're thinking and like stuff like that.
Yes, I was gonna get into that as well, because they narrate, like, you hear them in their head, like,
and they each have their own like little personality, like the way they think and stuff. So.
Yeah, which is really cool. But yeah, so basically, that opening scene happens. He ends up tagging his friend Bob, and then tells him that their friend is retiring from tag. Jerry, and Jerry,
who has never been tagged.
Yes,
because he's a god or something like that.
Jerry's never been tagged in the month of May in 30 years.
Yeah, and they only play in the month of May. I don't know if we mentioned that, did we?
Yes, I think I did, but it's possible I didn't. Right. So it's good that we clarified. No, it's good that we clarified either way. But yeah, so they, they only play in the month of May, and Hoagie said he's retiring, so they have to go get him. So him and Bob ended up getting in a car and just going to get everyone together to go.
Yeah, and they had a reporter a reporter was interviewing Bob as Hoagie comes in to try and tag him, right? And then this reporter, I feel like, kind of takes like the place of the audience, right? Like she's learning about this. She decides this is an interesting story that she wants to cover, these friends who've been playing tag for so long. And so she's learning about it, like the audience is learning about it. And I think that was like a really smart move, because it is actually based off of a news article, but it's like a good way to have exposition in this comedy film. Is like, oh, they're explaining to her like what they're doing and stuff,
Yeah. No, yeah, I do agree. I think she was a nice piece to have in the film, right? She would ask questions along the way. I guess it was kind of like an excuse to be able to ask questions about it, right? About what was going on. Or just like at some points it was also like, I guess, comedy sometimes as well. But
yeah, she did kind of fade out towards the end of the film. Like she wasn't as present.
Yeah.
Once we knew what was going on, like she was almost just like a vehicle for like a lot of the plot to happen in the first half, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I agree. I mean, there are, you can nitpick at some of these characters.
There's a lot of characters that they're trying to cover, I feel like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but so we move on from this, right? She goes with them, like, as you said. And then we go to their other friend, Chili, who may end up chasing him. And like I said, like, again, like these chase scenes are so over the top, like he grabs onto like a wire next to a telephone pole. Oh, but yes, that. But yeah, I mean, right? He runs through other people's apartment buildings, like it's crazy.
Yeah. I liked how he was like saying hi to all his neighbors too. Like,
Yeah, that was funny. And then he like falls, hard, like off onto the ground, like off a car onto the ground, and then gets tackled by Bob, and he's tagged, and he's in.
Yeah. And even though it's like dramatized, like over the top, the way that they film it is like, it feels like real. Like it feels like they're actually like chasing each other this way. And that even though, they're doing these crazy things, they're obviously not like professional athletes or anything, like leaping over like buildings or whatever, doing parkour and stuff,
Jerry might be.
Yeah, I know. Jerry, yeah. Jerry was like that. But like the other ones,
yes,
like,
I do agree.
Yeah, like Chili runs through like a door screen or something like that, And
Yes.
Hoagie comes behind him and then just opens the broken door and just like
Yeah.
shuts it behind him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point you make because like, in that scene especially like and in the other ones like following it later on, like you see like the different like the little different ways like they all like how different they are. Like right, you said
Mhm.
Chili like busts through like doors, and he busts through the screen and he just ran over like all the trash, and like Hoagie's like, "Oh, you're running over like a bunch of trash." And he like like
Yeah.
and like Chili jumped over a fence whereas, Hoagie like opened it up and closed it. Like yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess that they made it some, sort of realistic in that sort of way,
Yeah.
Yeah, which was good, I think.
hmm And I just want to point out a couple of things that I learned from this scene where they're getting chili that I felt kind of like stuck throughout the movie.
Okay.
One of which is positive, and the other which kind of bugged me a little bit.
Okay.
The first thing that I thought was, well, actually, I don't know if this is positive. I take that
Let's
back.
hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
But they destroy so much property that they're not responsible for in this movie.
Oh.
Like when he's like chasing Chili here.
Yeah.
He like breaks a screen door. When they're like flashback to when they were kids and they're talking about like, oh, even when you had Jerry cornered, he would turn into a feral animal. And then he like throws this like projector.
Changes through the projector.
Yeah, so like they're responsible for that. And then also when Chili like falls off of the staircase, he breaks someone's AC unit off of their apartment. And then Jerry breaks at least 2 windows. They break all those vases in the country club. They totaled the golf cart. Like I don't know, dude. They just break so much stuff,
Here's my thing about this is like you're right. Like like they do break a lot of stuff, and they don't, they never really talk about it, never really bring it up. Like, oh yeah, we busted all this stuff. Like, like,
I mean, it's not important, right? It's just
yeah, it's not important, but still, I was always of the impression or the understanding that like, they would go back and pay for it.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess it helps that
Bob
is like a executive at a big company, right? So
yeah, I mean, especially when later on, right, he bribes the like the guy working at the gym, like,
and he has this like was it $2,500 on him in cash or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. So you kind of get the vibe that like, okay, like they can pay for some of this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I guess.
But yes,
which
you're
is
right.
fine. But I just was like, they're just destroying property. Like they don't even care, dude.
All for the game. All for the game.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I noticed in this first like chase scene, I guess, was like at the end when they're all together and they all start tagging each other and like, you're it, and they're like all slapping each other and stuff, right?
No.
Like that was like one of the first moments where I felt like the humor just like wasn't for me, I guess, like I was like, this is kind of annoying,
Like it's
a
little too childish.
Yeah. Like I thought a lot of it was super fun, and I didn't really find this to be like funny, this movie funny so much as it was fun. And sometimes when they tried to make jokes, I just felt like it was too like childish,
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
But sometimes I did like the jokes. Like a lot of the jokes with Sable, I thought I really liked his character and like the stuff that he said.
Sable was it was really weird. Okay.
Yeah, really I mean, I like that. I guess I like the weirdness.
I mean, they go get him as well, and he's just a weird guy. But I
just wanted to point out that I was annoyed by some of the jokes. I felt like they were kind of cheap sometimes. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I wanted to,
but it wasn't all the time. It was only sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think that there's a difference. You made the good point about it being more fun than like the actual jokes being funny, right? I mean, like, and that it's hard maybe to think about the difference there, but there definitely is a difference. Like this whole movie is pretty, I don't know, cheery. Kind of just like it's just a happy movie, right?
Yeah, they talk about serious things in a lighthearted manner too. So it's like,
yeah,
Yes,
they do. Yes, they do.
But they're not offensive about it. I think, right? Or at least to me, it didn't seem that.
For the most part, no. Yeah.
Like as opposed to like this is the end.
Yes. Okay. It definitely wasn't. This movie didn't have the crudeness, like that kind of humor that this movie did. I don't think. Yeah. This movie was.
It was rated R, but I think it was really only for language, right?
Yes. I think it was for the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just wanted to say the F word a bunch, I guess.
I guess so, to make it realistic, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like they used explicit language just for the sake of trying to make a line funny either, right? It was just like
they didn't overdo it.
Yeah, and it seemed like how people might actually talk, which I think helped with the wacky scenario.
Yes.
Like it felt real, even though it was like super stylized, and obviously, even though it was based off a true story, it's not exactly what happened,
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Connor, about one character before we move forward, and I want to ask you about
Sure.
Hoagie's wife, played by I think it's Issa
Oh,
Fisher.
yeah.
What'd you think of her? Was she
Uh,
fine?
well, when she went crazy, that was kind of a little bit like whatever for me. I was like, this is just over the top, and like,
Sure.
I don't know. Like when they're driving the golf carts, and she's like, I can get a little competitive, and then she sees them driving the golf carts, and
She
she's like,
screams.
just go down the fourth fairway. I'm like, they're just doing this to try and make us laugh. It doesn't make sense that she would actually say that because like, how are they gonna hear her? You know, and like, I don't know.
I suppose, yeah. I just want to hear your thoughts on her because
Yeah. She was fine though. I did like that she had that personality trait. I'm not sure how well, like, there were just some things that she said that were, just annoying to
that
me.
just didn't land to you.
Yeah, that just didn't land. But I did like the character as a concept. Like, I liked having
Mm.
her be with Hoagie. And like, I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of funny, like when she was like, do you want me to be foreign? And then like when they're at the wedding and stuff, you know, and then
Yeah.
she starts pretending to be like this French person or something.
Yeah, the reason I like not necessarily her character, but all these characters is because like you know, I say this a lot, but I think that it's interesting and I like it when like each of these characters they all have very distinct personalities, right? They're also different, right?
That's true.
They're also
Yeah.
different. And I say this a lot because, I always say, it's great to have a movie that, has different types of characters. So everyone can kind of be like, oh, that would be me, like,
That's true.
you know what I mean? They have like the arrogant, like the best in Jerry, they have like the heart and soul.
Which
like
one
the
is you, Ryan? Who did you identify with?
Connor, I'd like to think that I would be Jerry, but come on, like who can actually be Jerry? I don't know. I'd probably be Bob, or
okay,
just like no, not in like that, not like the CEO way, but in like the false confidence kind of way. Like, this is gonna be my moment. I'm gonna be the one to tag him. It's gonna be me, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought it was.
Who do you see me as in this film?
Who would I see you as?
I feel like I'd be Sable, just like sitting there, like wondering stuff.
Yes, I think you'd be like, you wouldn't be as weird as Sable though. You'd be like between Hoagie and Sable.
Yeah.
Combination. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be passionate, I think.
Yeah, but you'd also be like kind of chill. You'd just be kind of chill about it. You'd be like, yeah, like I think we could get Jerry. Like, sure.
Yeah, no, but I think that you're right that they do have a wide variation in like their character personalities.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really good thing about this movie, and it helps like people have fun when they watch it because they can like you said, they can identify.
Yeah, of course, and I say it all the time, but I really think that it's true when a movie does this and they do it well.
Yeah,
I think that it really helps. It really helps the movie.
Yep.
But I wanted to move on to the next scene, and this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Okay, this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. They go to the country club at night.
Oh wait, did you want to mention when they pick up Sable at the conference room at all, or not the conference room,
or at the
he's meeting with his like psychologist,
Sure. I mean, we can talk about that for a second. I think
yeah.
I just think he's weird. Like he's funny. He's just so weird.
Well, I feel like that hit a little bit like, I don't know. I feel like that was one of the moments where it was like most kind of, I don't know what the word is, but he's having like actual mental health struggles, and then like they think it's funny, I don't know.
Sure.
I guess as a person, like with my family, we've had struggled with a lot of mental health, so that was like the one moment where I was like, oh, this doesn't like kind of made me feel weird.
Yeah, sure. I think that with like friends like that, like sometimes I just feel like it's kind of the thing that they would do, like especially guys who play tag like that, I mean, they hide in the closet. And
that's true, and you can see that in their relationship too, when they were like leaving and joking with him and stuff, and he was like totally fine. He was
exactly
with them. Yeah,
exactly, because I think they're really close friends. Like as we see later on, like right, like they're all like this group of 4 of them are very close.
Yeah,
So like I think it's kind of like like I'm sure they know he has some degree of mental health, like struggles. So I think, but yes, I understand. Like they were kind of laughing about it, I suppose.
Wait, did you want to bring up what scene did you say was next? The country club scene?
I wanted to bring up the scene where they introduced Jerry. Yeah. I know there was one scene in the middle of that. I know they go to his basement.
Let me just mention this real quick. The 2 scenes that were in the middle of that is they get back home and they go to Hoagie's like basement,
Mm.
and Hoagie's like, yeah, I want to smoke for some reason, and
Yeah.
then he starts to smoke, and then the mom comes in, and then that was only there for the gag, like, oh, your mom doesn't want you to smoke, like, and then there was like a gag about like, oh, the mom thinks like what's his name, Chili's attractive
She
for
likes
some reason
chili.
or whatever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just kind of ranting about the jokes that I found to be like whatever, you know.
I didn't think that was that bad. I thought that was fine.
No, it was
kinda funny.
fine. Like
Yeah.
it didn't put me off the movie or anything like that. I just like it when the humor actually has to do with the plot of the story. And like
Mm.
her liking him had nothing to do with it.
That's true.
Or even like his character development. It had nothing to do with that either. Like it's just there to be like a weird, funny thing, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I have pretty much only one kind of major problem with this movie that I'll get into a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, sorry to distract from that.
But no, it's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up that they did that, and then they also went to the Sandpiper where they had Lou. That's where we meet Lou.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you think
bartender.
about him. Yeah, I don't know what you think about him.
Well, I mean, before I talk about him, I wanted to talk. You brought up a good point. Why Hoagie was like, I
go ahead.
I want to smoke. You know, he wanted to smoke weed for a second. And
Yeah.
you know, I thought that was an interesting scene because watching it again, you can see obviously why. You can see little moments where like says like Jerry's quitting and like this about smoking and like stuff like this.
Oh, I
all
see what
adds
you're
up.
saying. Okay.
There's little moments where like, oh, like yeah, it makes sense. Like he just, you know, he doesn't think
because
he's gonna live,
so he. I didn't think about that. That's a good point, though. That is a good point.
And he does it constantly, right? He's like, yeah, you know, we can really get Jerry. You know, we really got to get him. Like, and he said something. I remember later on, Jerry's like, you know, you're gonna have to be doing this till you die. And he's like, and Hoagie's like, you know, I won't stop. I won't
he says,
stop.
I don't fear death or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
something like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that because I forgot rewatching this. I forgot that Hoagie has cancer.
Oh, yeah. You said you forgot the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, since I remember the ending, I thought that was really like it's interesting. Like you see these little things and it makes sense, right? It makes sense why he acts this way.
Yep.
So I liked that.
That is a good point.
Yeah, but talking about Lou, if you want me to talk about him as a character for a second, I mean, I didn't think too much of him. I mean, he was fine. I mean, it makes sense. You know, there's always that one kid, you know, in school, you know, who always wants to be a part of a group. But it just isn't, right? Or kind of like is on the edge, like kind of is, but they don't want, like, you know, like, but he's not. So he was kind of like that, and he seems to still be like that, right? So
But did you feel bad for him at all, or did you feel like they were like treating him poorly or anything?
I don't know if feel bad's the right word. I mean, I sympathize with him, right? Because I understand, like, you know, I'd want to be a part of that group too. That's so cool. Like, I'm sure he wanted to be a part of the group for decades, right? But I also understand why he's not, because like they're like, yeah, listen, man, like we've been playing this for decades now. Like it's kind of our thing, you know what I mean? Like they've experienced it all together, so it makes sense why he's not a part of it. But I also like it makes sense.
But then at the end, they like open it up to the women who are there.
Yeah, I think he's got unlucky that he wasn't there, honestly.
I guess, but it's like kind of messed up though. Like they wouldn't let him in, and then they're letting this reporter in who, they just met.
I agree, but think of it this way: they didn't let him in until they knew Hoagie was gonna maybe die. Like it wasn't like a foregone conclusion, but it was like, yeah, Hoagie might, you know, have cancer and like, you know.
I guess, but also it wasn't like they thought about it or anything like that. It was just because Jerry suggested it, and I feel like they're like, oh yeah, Jerry says it's okay, let's do it because Jerry says it.
Exactly. And where was Jerry this whole time, right? This is kind of a main point in the movie. Jerry was never there, right? It was always them four plus like their significant others, right, who were with them, right? And it was never Jerry was never there. So that, you know, which is the main point of the movie. You know, you interact with a bunch of your friends, but not one of them.
I just want to point out that I feel like I kind of sympathize with Lou a little bit. I was like, dude, like they're totally excluding him, you know? I don't know.
No, I understand.
But I did think that his character was kind of like whatever, like not a big factor or anything like that. So it's not important.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, like I said, I understand. Like I sympathize with him. Like I understand. Like there's always that person who wants to be part of a group, but they just won't. Like they kind of like won't really let you in. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of what he was. Like I definitely like feel bad for him, but I understand why they don't let him in. If that makes sense. Like I understand both sides.
Yeah. No, I do too. It was kind of sad though, just like how desperate he was. Like he runs into the car for some reason.
Yeah, he really yeah.
Yeah.
He was very desperate. He really wanted to be part of the group.
Yeah. And they
But
kind of manipulate him too a little bit.
they do. They do. They definitely do. Of course they do. Yeah, they get him. They
Yeah.
say that he'll be in the article, and he never will be. Yeah, the reporter manipulates him too. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, we get to what might be my favorite scene in the movie. Definitely one of. And Jerry's just great. I love Jerry in this movie. Jeremy Renner plays him. And they try to trap him at the country club because that's where the wedding reception, I think, was going to be. And they wanted to, they pretended that it was going to be canceled. So Jerry rolls up, to talk to them about it. And just the way he rolls up is so perfect. And I love this kind of the over the top, not like villain's the wrong word, but like he's kind of like a
cool guy, like bad boy.
Like he's a bad boy. Yeah, the cool guy. Yeah. Exactly. And he just rolls up, he rolls up in his Dodge, he just like does like a nice little, he like drifts to a stop, like, he just stops in front, rolls up, walks in, and then just like, you get the narration in his head of everything that's happening. And he notices something's off. And it's so great. I just love the whole scene. And he just destroys everyone and then ends up jumping out the window, rolling off the roof and landing in like a crazy fashion, like on one knee, like slowly looking up, like,
yeah.
I just love the whole scene.
It was, yeah, it's fun. And it's a great introduction to Jerry too.
What do you not like about it though? You seem like you have something.
Well, hold on. Let me just, I just want to say that I agree with you that I loved like the choreography and like the style with the slow-mo and like what Jerry's thinking and how he's like patronizing all of them in his thoughts and stuff. And then he like jumps out the window and lands there, breaking another window. But that's besides the point. Okay, so one thing is that I thought that like it was kind of poorly lit. Like I wanted to see a little bit more of like exactly what was going on.
Okay.
Like when he was like throwing them down into tables, like sometimes maybe it's just because I'm watching on a small screen, but it's like I was like, oh, I want to see exactly where they are and exactly what's happening. I guess I was kind of spoiled by that first chase scene where they were chasing Chili in like the middle of the day or something, But like I paused the scene. I went back and I watched it like 3 times, trying to figure out what he threw Bob. I don't know if I should call him Bob or Callahan, but Bob and Hoagie into something. He threw them into something, and I couldn't figure out, was it a table full of like plates? Was it a vase? I couldn't figure it out. I kept rewinding. I guess I kind of got hung up on that, but I guess I just wanted to see it a little better.
Okay.
And then the other thing that bothered me about that scene was like, first of all, they went to the Sandpiper and it's dark, right?
Yeah.
And it's May, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be getting dark sort of later in May in Washington, right?
Okay.
Like the sun wouldn't set until like in May, probably 8 or something like that, right?
Probably.
And then I don't know how long they were at the Sandpiper. Maybe not even that long, a couple minutes, right? And then they're like, oh, the country club. So they set up the thing where they call Jerry and his fiance, and they're like, oh, this is the country club. Like, whatever, they were canceling your thing. Like, doesn't it look like the country club is closed when they're there? Like, nobody else is there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then closed. Yeah, so how did they get in? Did they break in?
Yes.
Does Jerry not know that it's closed?
I think it looked like there was lights on inside, but no one was in there.
Yeah, I guess.
And then they turn the lights off.
And then afterwards, after this scene, they all like have a drink at the bar at the country club. Like, who's monitoring them? Like, they're just there in the country club without any staff or anything.
Did they?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure they did.
It wasn't at the Sandpiper? Okay, maybe it was in the club. Or the country club.
Oh, no. Or they had a conversation. Maybe they just had a conversation in there. And then it was like, I think it was like the editing. They were like, oh, give me 5 tequilas. And then they cut to the Sandpiper or something like that.
Maybe.
Know?
Because they did definitely do amendments with Jerry, but I thought that might have been at the Sandpiper.
Yeah, no, I think they did the amendments there when they met his wife.
Yeah, okay.
But I just thought it was weird that that Jerry and his wife believed that they were calling him at that time of night. During May, because it would have been like past 8 p.m. And then I can bring up this time stuff later too, but maybe it's just me looking at it from like a technical perspective, because that same night is the night where they're like, oh, Jerry's going to be at his house. No, he won't. Yes, he will. And so they go to Jerry's house, and then Jerry's like, oh, I'm at Hoagie's house. And we can get
Yeah.
into this scene more, right?
That was a
And so then
great
they go to Hoagie's house, and then
Yes.
Jerry's like, haha, I'm actually at my house. And then he sits down and he keeps watching his like hockey game that he's watching or whatever, right?
Yeah.
By this time, it's got to be like 11 p.m. What hockey game is still going on at 11 p.m. like Pacific time?
I mean, it could have been like 10 p.m. It's possible. It could have been like 10 p.m.
I guess, dude. I was just like, they did so much in this night, and
I'm so interested that this is. I'm surprised. I watched through these scenes and this didn't even really. I didn't even really think about this. This is. I don't know. It's just
I
interesting.
mean, it's totally beside the point, right? It's just supposed to be like fun.
Sure.
But they only have 3 days to do this, right?
Yeah.
Before the May ends from the beginning, from the first scene, pretty much.
Mhm.
So I guess they have to cramp it all in. But I was just like, what? Like Jerry like doesn't know that the country club's closed? I don't know. Maybe he knew it was, but he wanted to introduce himself, and he was like,
That's
I'm gonna
Jerry.
go and show these guys up. I don't know.
He walks in and he's like, "Why, hello, boys."
Oh, yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
great.
Did you want to talk about him introducing his wife at all, or his wife as a character?
I don't really know if we need to talk about her introducing herself, but we can talk about her as a character. Like, definitely. I think.
Sure. I thought, okay, when she says, like, let's drop these amendments, like, no tag at this, no tag at that, I was, like, so annoyed with her already. I was like,
Yeah, she was definitely annoying.
she was a party pooper, dude. And, like, she was so cheap and so, oh my gosh.
Yes.
She was worse. Jerry wasn't even bad. Jerry was fun.
Jerry was fun.
But she was not, dude. She was not fun.
No, she faked. She did some crazy stuff. Okay, we can get into it in the later scenes, but
yeah.
I mean,
sorry for all my ranting so far.
No, it's okay. Don't
I was having fun watching all this too, and I did like it, but those were just.
But it's just things you notice. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good to point out. If you notice them, but I don't really think much of his wife, other than like, I can see why Jerry's marrying her, because she's very similar to him in terms of like competitiveness, it seems, and like just ruthlessness. Like she did some intense stuff at the end, man. Like she really, right? And
but Jerry was also like, I felt like he was such a nice guy in the community too, though, right? Like you see in the mall.
Yes.
Like I feel like he had a degree of like wanting to, I don't know, of just upstandingness, or I don't know if that's a word, but he was just so well known and liked, and so kind, I guess, outside of like what he was doing to traumatize his friends, but.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely not. She doesn't seem like as nice, but I also think like we don't really see that much of her character, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Like we only see like the annoying side of her, right? Like we do. She's
so
annoying,
dude.
She's very annoying.
She's.
I agree. I got really annoyed with her when she at the end.
Dude, I don't even know if I would.
Yeah, she was annoying. I definitely agree. But talking about the scene where they go to Jerry's house and then Jerry pretends to go to Hoagie's house and then he's actually in his own basement. I just love that scene because it's so over the top. Jerry's just so prepared, so extra, so much better than all of them. He had a green screen in his basement, like a whole setup.
They believe that. I guess it's like on a little tiny phone screen, but they believe that that's actually Hoagie's room. It's just like a poster on the wall. Like,
yeah, I mean, he had the same chair.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And it was just so perfect.
A fake bear.
Yeah, it was just so perfect. He had like the security, the sensors in his house, like the cameras. He had the TV come out of his bed, like the front of his bed frame. Yeah.
And there were some good lines too, like, "You broke into my house. We broke into his house." Things like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
some jokes hit for me.
I thought that was just. I really enjoyed that. I just thought that was fun. I like the whole like Jerry's like he's not evil, but he's like the bad guy. Like he's like the bad boy. I just thought that was neat.
I guess so. I mean, it also makes me kind of uncomfortable thinking about like someone like threatening to masturbate on something that you hold so deep, near and dear to you. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that was kind of messed up.
Of course, I mean, it was definitely messed up. They did a lot of messed up stuff in this movie.
Even though he wasn't actually going to do it, that was one thing that made me like.
I mean, they almost
waterboarded. Really personal
thing.
Like
they almost waterboarded a guy.
I know, but they weren't actually going to do that.
Weren't they?
I don't think so, dude. Like that was.
They wouldn't know his wife was going to.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like this definitely, yeah. I mean, they went. They took it too far at some points. And I think that's also kind of the point, right? We see that later on. Like, I think they definitely take it too far. Both of them, both Jerry and Hoagie do later in the movie, you know. But I really enjoyed that scene. I just think it's fun. Like, he just totally outplays them. Jerry's just better than them. You know, he has like maps. You know, he has disguises and stuff. Like, I think Sable saw that, right?
And he has 5 hats, dude. 5 hats.
5. Isn't that crazy, Connor? 5 hats. Wow.
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, I like that.
Also, I mean, right after this, Connor, we get like an almost immediate bounce back to another scene with Jerry and them trying to tag him, right? I mean, right after this, we get another one at the mall, right?
Yeah, because I think
It's the next
they're
morning.
all sleeping in except for Hoagie, right? Hoagie wakes up kind of earlier.
Yes.
To go catch him that morning.
Yeah. And like, there's not much to say. I enjoyed the scene as well. You know, you get to see Jerry.
This one was fun. I like this one a lot.
You get to see Jerry just thoroughly outplay Hoagie again.
Yeah.
You know?
He's like size 9.5, like men's cross trainers or something like that.
Yeah. And he just knew it was Hoagie. And you know, and then I love it when like he like uses the handbag to block all his shots, and then he uses the little like the walker, flips him over and then jumps on it and just is standing over him. He's like, "It's over, Hoagie." Like, it's just I just thought it was fun. I thought it was neat. And like he threw his like his tux or his suit with like on like the hanger.
Oh yeah, and he throws it on
perfectly.
I remember my siblings and I remember I was watching that in theaters with my siblings, and we like looked at each other. We were like, okay.
Yeah, I mean he's just simply unbelievable. He's just, you know, he's better than everyone else.
He's superhuman, basically.
He basically is.
And he like says to that kid, he's like, "Wow, you're gonna eat all of that? You should look into some healthy alternative snacks or something." You know.
I was like, okay, that's a little corny. Like, all right, yeah. But yeah, what do you think of this scene? Like, you said you liked it.
Yeah, no, I did like this scene a lot. I mean, I thought it. Not that I didn't like the scene before where they went to his house. I thought that was like entertaining how he like juked them out and stuff. But I mean, once again, I really just like how they did action, even though it's not like people actually fighting. You know, he's trying to avoid being touched, and that's kind of a new, unique kind of way to film an action scene. Yeah, it was really fun, and I like how he like dapped the mall cop up at the end. You know? He's like, yeah.
He's like, "Hey, you lost some weight or something." Like it was just you know, talking to a buddy, talking to a friend. So yeah, no, I agree. That was cool. And after this, Connor, you know, it slows down a little bit, right? We go to, I think, what is it? Dinner. The rehearsal dinner, I believe. You know, at the country club, and you know, we get introduced to a new character, and this is really the only problem I have with this movie, in my opinion. We get introduced to Rashida Jones, who's playing Cheryl. You know, and she comes to this dinner and basically just messes with the group, right? She's literally there to cause problems between Callahan and Chili. Is basically why she's there.
Yes.
The only reason she's the that's the only reason she's there.
Do you mean that's the only reason her character decided to show up, or that's the only reason the writers decided to put her character there?
Both.
Because this is a question I have for you. It's like, do you think she is trying to help Jerry? Is that what you're saying?
I think that Jerry invited her. He knows he invited her. She knows they play tag in the month of May. Yeah. She knows that Chili and Callahan both like her. So yes, I think she wanted to see them.
Right.
And at the same time knowing she was going to be helping Jerry because, you know, she'd obviously be messing. But
she's not there to help Jerry. She's there because she wants to see her old friends, right?
Yes, but she knew that she was going to be helping Jerry by being there.
I guess. I don't feel like she's there to be like she's not trying to be, like, she tells them, go get Jerry, like, stop thinking about me.
And the writers knew it too, though.
The writers,
like, that's the only reason, right? That's the only reason she was
I agree that it is kind of like a shoehorned in kind of a thing. Because like, what does it do? The only thing that it actually does is make it so that Callahan isn't there when they chase him in like the golf course in the forest.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have made any difference anyways, because like he still would have been trapped like the rest of them, right? Like
maybe Jerry knew he only had 3 traps. I don't know. And then I only have 3. I have to get rid of one of them. Like, I don't know. What I thought is it would have been worth it, Connor, if she had caused some sort of actual like strife, some sort of actual rift between Chili and Callahan. But really, what ended up happening was like they had some sort of like they had a little bit of problem with each other for like maybe like one scene. But then it was like like let's just make
Yeah.
up. Hey, shake hands. They're good again.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
I
Like,
think that might have made this movie feel too packed, though, right? If they had an actual rift. Like, I
yes, that's
feel
why
like,
I don't think they needed it at all. I don't think this
yeah,
movie needed.
I agree. They didn't need her.
Yeah, that's my only point. Is I just think that they
Mhm.
introduced an unnecessary character.
Yeah, but maybe they did it because they didn't want it to feel like they're just going from one chase scene to the next with no like actual story happening in between.
Mhm.
Maybe they could have figured out a way to make it more like intertwined with the main story and still have her in there and
Mm.
keep it engaging, but also not too complicated. I don't know. That's a problem for the writers, I feel like.
Yes, I agree. Like how because they did it pretty well for the most part. They go back to Hoagie's house in the basement. They talk. They get interviewed by the Wall Street Journal writer. Right? They
I
feel
did like that scene that you bring that up, where they're like all sitting at the couch and they're like
Yeah.
talking to her, recalling how they
Okay.
Bob like roundhouse kicked Chili or something like
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
things like that. Yeah,
I-
that's fun. I like that scene.
Yeah, and they just like cut between each of them talking about it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like they fill the time really well. The downtime between the action scenes like pretty well for the most part. I just think that Rashida Jones's character was a little bit unnecessary. Cheryl,
Yeah.
that's just my opinion though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all she does is make Callahan not there when they're doing the golf course chase, and then she makes
Chili
Chili
not there.
not be there when they go to the gym, which I feel like doesn't make any difference either. And then they just like have a quick little argument, and then she's like, "Oh, just go get Jerry."
Like okay.
And then she's there at the end for Callahan to be like, "You go get her, Chili." I don't know.
Yeah. It's like all right, like cool. So I don't know.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought they could have done without her.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot. I feel since you've seen this movie more than me, I feel like you're bringing more things to my attention than I had realized.
I mean, that's definitely possibly the case. I mean, you bring things to my attention on a lot of the movies that you've seen more than me. So,
Hey.
yeah,
It goes
but-
both ways.
it does, no doubt. But Connor, after this is another really you bring up the golf cart chase scene as like a part that you didn't like. Maybe you didn't like some parts of that
Oh.
at the beginning. Well, at least I'm sorry.
What did I
referencing-
say I didn't like about that?
Referencing Hoagie's wife yelling at them when they were driving the golf carts.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just didn't like that
Yeah.
like joke.
Yes. Yeah. I
Like,
didn't
when did
mean
they
to
get
say-
there? When did they go there? Weren't they helping them chase Jerry, and then now they're like way across the Gulf?
They came all the way back around. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
But what'd you think of this whole scene? Like just the
Oh.
whole like the in the woods, like the yeah.
Um,
What'd you think of it?
I like the golf cart chase. That's fun. Once they crash in the woods and then they cut to black, I thought that was kind of weird. Like it kind of threw me off. I was like, oh, they're gonna wake up and it's gonna be some time later, is what it makes you feel like, right?
It was like right away.
Yeah, but it was like right away. And I was like, well, if it's just going to be right away and you're not cutting to like they all got knocked out and they're waking up sometime later, then you could just have us cut to like the next frame of them, just a long shot of them all like rolling on the ground or whatever, I just thought that was a weird edit.
Sure. Did you notice what they did though when they did that though? When they cut to black, they came back and it was literally like a different filter. Like it was.
Oh yeah, it was all
music.
foggy and like.
It was like horror-esque for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think what Jerry did was clever, like hiring the groundsmen or whatever, and that was super fun to like watch them like all navigating and through the trees and whatever.
The music.
Yeah, music.
And then he
then-
puts a chloroform on.
Yeah, but then they all like so dumb, dude. I just like, how are they all so like dim-witted compared to Jerry? Like, how is he so much smarter than them? Like, Chili just runs after him with no reason, and then
I think Chili's just kind of dumb though.
yeah, I know. But then like, they just walk into that net. Well, sure, it could have been hidden, right? And then Hoogie like tags Sable, but then when Sable's going right, he sees the guy standing there with a hood, right? And he's like, "I'm coming to get you, like, you MFer or whatever," right? And he like sneaks up on him. And he's like about to tag him, and I'm like, does he really think this is Jerry just standing here right now? Like, does he really think that?
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
I just can't fathom their like how they think it's like gonna be easy.
yeah.
And that's what gets them like they could have avoided all the traps so easily,
Sure. I get that. I I think that it has to be like sort of Jerry has to have this sort of like unbelievableness to him, and that kind of makes them seem dumber, right? Is kind
Yeah,
of what ends up
I guess
happening.
so. Like you have to make them seem dumber in order to make him seem so good,
Hmm.
so
Kind
epic.
of, kind of, yeah. And
Yeah.
what I thought
But I
was
feel like you didn't have to, right? Like you could have had a more reasonable like scene where he
that's
still like is outsmarting them, but they're thinking like reasonable people, and that would make him seem even more like outstanding that he
maybe.
can outsmart like a person who is actually trying to be clever about stalking him or whatever. I don't know.
I suppose. Yeah, that's fair. I just one part before we move on is I thought it was funny when like they were showing him like Jerry like running between the trees, like he was like cutting, like he was like there and then he was gone. Like it's like
Oh
okay,
yeah,
like he's not just gonna disappear in like the woods. Like it was just
yeah.
funny.
Well,
Like
no, that was because he had hired doubles, right?
I think actually I think you're right, but still, like how did they
Yeah,
not know that he had doubles at that point? Like
yeah, true,
it
dude.
just furthers your point. Like
Yeah,
what do you think he's multiple people now? Like
yeah,
Sable's like he's multiplying. Like okay, like he's not multiplying.
yeah. I mean,
So
maybe they were just freaked out from their golf cart crash or whatever. Um,
maybe
yeah,
maybe.
and then he has all these traps, and as a log slams into Chili's chest, which I know this is not like a realistic. This didn't actually happen in real life, but that would pretty much like break your ribs, and like you could
Yes.
die. You could die.
It would definitely break your ribs. And if you fell into the water, so with broken ribs in like water,
Yeah,
that's not good.
yeah. And also he like chloroforms Sable.
I know.
And he didn't need to do that. He could have just like,
He's like shh. I was like okay.
yeah,
It was just so
whatever.
it was so funny because
Yeah.
he was just so over the top and like a
It's kind of ridiculous, which kind of bugs me, but at the same time, it's fun. So like, it evens out.
understand.
I'm kind of indifferent to it. It was a good scene,
I understand. Understandable.
Yeah.
And then Connor, we just go on to, I don't want to spend too much time on all these scenes, but there's just so many fun scenes, there's just so many scenes that to me, like they're so enjoyable. Because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go to the next really big one is like the gym, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So they go and Callahan switches out with Chili, basically
yes,
unimportant.
and it doesn't matter. Yeah, they basically ask this guy where Jerry's gonna be, and he tells them after they almost waterboard him, and then he asks them for like $2,000. And it's like, okay, well, you could have just asked for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this guy was this guy was just weird, but
Yeah. This
uh,
scene was actually one of the more slow scenes for me. You said like it was a little bit slower for you at the dinner rehearsal. I felt like this was more slow because I felt like it was just a waste of our time.
it could have been, yeah. Like, do you remember how Hoagie saw that card where like he was picking up his clothes from like the mall? Remember? And he's
Yeah.
like, it was like 9:30 point. They could have just done that for this, right? They could have like seen something like a clue, right? Instead of having the
Yeah.
scene, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Plus, like his guy that works at his gym knows that he's going to be at Alcoholics Anonymous tomorrow morning. Even though like they're asking him like where he is now, but isn't that what they were asking? They're like, "Where's Jerry?" Like,
Yeah, I think so. But he gave him like the next best answer, I suppose.
yeah, I guess so.
But
I
anyway,
guess
Connor,
Jerry is really open. Everybody knows he goes to Alcoholics Anonymous,
Jerry's just buddies with everyone. He tells everyone everything.
even though it's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, yeah, right. I guess not for Jerry.
Yeah. Anyways, that was fine though. Like there were a couple funny jokes with that
Sure.
weird gym guy.
Regardless, it leads us to the big scene. It leads us to the scene where you think maybe they got him. You think maybe they finally trapped Jerry. At Alcoholics Anonymous, he's speaking, and then they ended up, they infiltrated and they started like trying to tag him. Doesn't work. Jerry gets trapped. No way out.
Yes.
They have like a bunch of mouse traps, like rat traps outside.
Dude, that was weird. I mean,
That was.
that's okay. I don't really mind that.
They
It's
took
kind of
it.
fun.
They took it to another level, Connor. They had to meet Jerry,
Yeah,
in terms of.
but
the
also like
intensity.
I'm surprised Jerry didn't just try and navigate the rat traps. Like I feel like he could, like
We'll just navigate the traps.
yeah.
Wow.
Plus, like, so what if he steps in like one of them? Like he wouldn't care, dude. He would just keep going.
Maybe, but listen, Connor. They had to trap him for the story. Okay.
Yeah, they did.
And they end up trapping him. He ends up like hiding in like one of those like
Yeah.
those kitchens that have like the
It's like a
metal,
little cafeteria area at a church, sort of.
yeah,
right?
and they have like the metal door pulled down, so like they couldn't get
Yeah.
in from the outside.
I thought this was actually one of this was the most fun scene in the movie for me
Really.
because because you get to see like a lot more thoughts from the characters. Like you got to see like what each of them were thinking, and they each get the opportunity to try and tag him, and he uses all these environmental obstacles to try and escape. And I don't know. I just think that this was the most fun scene for me to watch. Actually,
It
the
was really
first
fun.
the first one where they try and get Chili, that was pretty fun too. But those two are my favorite, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun. I agree. And it culminates, in a moment where Jerry's wife shows up and starts freaking out. Right?
Dude, oh my gosh. As she shows up, starts like screaming or whatever, I was kicked off of her. I was like, come on.
She was so annoying. She ruined it, right? It's like, oh, why do you have to kill the buzz,
Yeah.
And anyway, she has seemingly a problem with her baby because she reveals to them that she was pregnant earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she seems to have a problem with the baby, and Jerry's like, man, like, this isn't a game anymore. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, and he says like, and Bob's actually genuinely like trying to help too.
I know, right?
And Jerry's like, I'll crush your windpipe. Like,
it's like, chill out, man.
And he's not even, and it's not even a real, like, obviously he's just saying that to just sell it, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was too far. And, part of this movie is like, at what point is like taking it a little too far? Like, one would argue that, Connor, we get to this point where soon after this, we realize they figure out like they're still having the wedding. It wasn't postponed or anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't delayed. That it was fake. She faked a miscarriage.
Yeah. And they solved it like in a cool way, like through Instagram, which I thought was, that was fun.
Right? Yeah, it was a realistic way, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like that bothered me. Like not necessarily bad for the movie, but like seriously, like you'd fake that just for,
dude. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't really like redeem the wife in my mind. Like that they would go to that length.
She was ruthless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, it definitely bothered me. I agree.
Yeah.
And it bothered everyone. It bothered Chili. He's like, man, I'll be mad if you don't have a miscarriage or something. He's like, okay.
Yeah. I thought it was funny too, like things like that. Yeah, I like.
Yeah. But after this, or not after this, actually, before
they go to the wedding pretty much. Well, actually, Hoagie has like a breakdown.
He does. And again, if you know that he has cancer, you know why he has a breakdown. He's like, oh, I just want to get him one last time. But like, he feels so helpless. Like, I can't do it. Like, he just wants to do it. Because, it might be his last chance, right? Yeah. Maybe. So
yeah.
I think that's a good scene if you know that, if you're rewatching and that's
a good point. Yeah.
So annoyed. But anyway, they go to the wedding, obviously figuring out that it's still going on.
And they go to the wedding with the intention of just being there for our friend because whatever, Jerry's won mentality sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of why they go. They don't go with the intention of tagging him.
No. And they end up going to the ceremony, and Hoagie ends up, and I love how they had like this, he had like sort of like a...
Wait, before you talk about that, I just want to say when they go there and then they meet Jerry's fiance, dude, that scene.
Oh no.
I mean, they must have written her character well for me to hate her so much, dude.
She was not very nice.
Yes. And then Hoagie's like, or not Hoagie, sorry, Chili's like, and I'm not saying you deserve to have a miscarriage, but if you ever do have one, that's what you get, or something like that,
Yeah. I mean, she faked it just to get them not to like get away from her husband. Yeah.
But I like that dialogue scene with them, where they met up with her and they talked with her there, and there was a lot of tension and a lot of jokes that worked for me, and I like that scene.
Yeah, it was a good scene, and it leads to like the culminating sequence at the wedding where Hoagie, they promise not to interfere, but Hoagie ends up charging down the aisle and trying to tag
because he hears like, oh, the ceremony's over when the doves fly after the kiss or something,
Yeah. So he thought he could time it, but Jerry obviously sees it coming because it's Jerry. Mm-hmm. He moves out of the way in one simple motion. And Hoagie goes flying and just knocks himself out. He just gets knocked out, and he's just out on the ground.
Yeah. I like how he had, like, the little vision, though, of him actually tagging Jerry, though, and everybody cheering, and then, like, Jerry hugging him and stuff.
I was going to say that. He's like, they're like, yeah, they all cheer. Like, yeah, I thought that was great.
I did like that.
I agree. But, it just shows you, Connor, how far they take this game, right? He gets knocked out cold, and Jerry and his wife are like, wow, he's really acting really well. He's doing better than you, like, to his wife.
Yeah.
It's like okay, like you know what I mean? It shows you how far they take it,
Yeah.
just for the game.
And I think that Bob, and maybe Sable, but I think Bob had like one of the more like he was one of the people who put like other people before the game, I thought, most out of all of them. You know? Like he was always doing his best to like protect everybody and make sure everybody was doing like well, I guess. And like when
like outside the
Chili,
game.
yeah, and then when Chili was about to like say, you don't get to claim the moral high ground over us. You faked having he's gonna say miscarriage, and Bob's like, no, misunderstanding. And
Yeah.
like, yeah. But I thought like he was trying to protect Jerry and his wife there, even after what they did,
Yeah, and you make a good point, because I remember distinctly like a scene. Remember when they were in the bar with Lou was his name?
Yeah, with Lou, yeah.
And I think they asked Lou, like, what is tag or something, and he's like, tag's a way of life, and Callahan's like, no, it's not, and then Hoagie's like, yeah, it is, like, that's a perfect answer, but Callahan's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. So right, you're right, actually, like he definitely seems to take it a little less intensely or seriously.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people like John Hamm, so that character fits him well, because a lot of people can be like, I think a lot of people would identify with him, in that situation.
Sure.
It's like, oh, like that would be me. Like I would be doing this, but I wouldn't take it that seriously. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, understandable. But Connor, regardless, right? We get to that, and then he goes to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Hoagie goes to the hospital, and this is kind of where the whole movie kind of ends. And he ends up telling everyone, like, hey, like, I have cancer. And it's the one time where they actually get serious, right? And then even after, they start cracking jokes, maybe 30 seconds after, but they get serious, and he's like, yeah, I actually might.
And Chili was
die.
convinced that he was faking. He was like interrogating the doctor and everything, like. Yeah.
He was convinced. He's like, are you, like, he thought it was like the Truman Show, like everyone was fake.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Mm-hmm. I like how they reference other movies too. That's fun when they do that.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was neat as well.
But yeah, they do that serious moment, and I thought it was good when they like talk about it, because it's totally applicable. The conversation is totally realistic to how the story was going, but it also like comes down to the main message of the film, right?
Which is,
well, I don't know if you agree with me.
I think I'll agree. I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, well, the main message is like, games are about becoming closer with the people around you, and like we have games to like strengthen our relationships, not to like strain them,
Yeah, not to.
And competition can sometimes get in the way of that.
At the end of the day, the game doesn't matter more than the relationships you form by playing the game.
Yeah, competition is good, but not when you like prioritize your own winning over your relationship.
And in their case, it takes them Hoagie getting cancer to realize that, at least for Jerry and them to come together, because I think the rest of them were together, and they all, I remember early in the movie they referenced like Jerry, like, does that seem like a true, like, the reporter's like, does that seem like a close friendship to you? And Hoagie's like, well, that's not a fair question, like, that's not a very nice question, but it's true, right? They didn't really have a close relationship with Jerry outside of like the actual competition. And
I think Hoagie didn't really want to face that, and I think that was kind of his character arc, that he does face that at the end. That
same with Jerry.
Yeah, they both come to they both have similar character arcs, even though it's in a different way. They both come to the conclusion that like
it's like an inverse, yeah.
We need to place more importance on our friendship than the game.
Like Jerry definitely comes to that realization when he hangs up the FaceTime and then walks into the room. He was obviously in the lobby. Walks into the room.
But I think Hoagie maybe just doesn't want to come to terms with the reality that their relationship has faded because of that. He wants to keep up this facade that they're all super close still.
Yes, no, I do agree with that. Right, but regardless, he walks in and he lets himself get tagged. After all these years, he finally lets himself, and you can see he's struggling. He's like, oh, do I really want to like?
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he's been doing this competition for so long. He doesn't really know if he wants to.
Yeah, dude. I was like imagining myself hiding in the church like kitchen area. Like if I was him there, like I feel like I would just be like, whatever, like it's fine, they can tag me. But then like you think about it and you're like, maybe in a regular game of tag you'd be like that, but not with his streak, you know, because he's so attached to that. You know, it's like such a big part of who he is, I feel like, you know, that he is this champion and he will not be taken down, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
So it really says a lot that he does at the end. A lot. It really shows that he, you know, he appreciates the friends he has and the gravity of the.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great way to end this movie. You know, letting them all realize that just like the friendships they made are the best part about what they do. And then they just end it in a fun way, letting like they're
all tagging in the
wife and like it's fun. It's a fun end scene. I know you're not the biggest fan of like them doing that, like letting people in right there.
Oh well, actually, I mean, I don't have a problem with them doing that. I actually really thought that was fun. Okay. I just felt bad for Lou. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have let him play if he was there, but he just wasn't there.
Maybe
he just got unlucky.
He was also kind of a, you know, that person who just kind of like sticks to you. Like he's like.
Sure. Like, yeah. Like he's always just like there.
Or yeah, he seems like he's there. I don't know. Like, you know how there's like always like that friend in the friend group who's just there because you feel sorry for him, and I feel like that's kind of Lou, you know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's on the border of the group. Like, you know, he's just kind of there because they feel bad for him, but he's also not there. Like he's not quite there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like the way they ended this movie, and then you see all the clips of the real people who do this, and there was there was like 10 of them, right, in real life. So
there were a lot of them. It's a sizable group to keep going for that long. But yeah, I know, Connor, I don't know if you have any like final thoughts on this movie, like what you would give it as like a rating. Like,
Oh, sure.
What were your overall thoughts?
I think it's really fun. I'm kind of glad. First of all, when you said you wanted to watch it again, I was like, oh, not again. Because I remember there were being parts that I thought were like cheesy or annoying or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And there were some parts that I remember being kind of downers, like when they actually like faked having a miscarriage. That felt like kind of a downer to me. You know, I guess it makes sense for the story, but it just kind of makes me feel like icky a little bit, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, there was a few things I noticed about the time and then like the night or whatever, but they weren't like big deals. Like I still had a lot of fun watching the movie, and I think the characters are all super unique and great and fun to watch, and they each have their own personality. That's awesome. The chase scenes are all for the most part like pretty fun to watch. You know, I just have nitpicky things as like a person who's more a fan of like realistic and like drama like than comedy, I guess, you know. Like I like comedy, but sometimes I feel like it can be like the jokes are just there for the sake of the joke, not for the sake of the story. And I like to see story, you know, a lot. But I do think this overall has a really good story and message about these guys together. And you know, they did a good job adapting news article. I think it's basically based off the news article more so than the actual people's lives, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm kind of rambling, but I just wanted I really had fun watching the movie, but there are some things like, you know, it's not like I don't hold it in the same caliber as like, you know, Christopher Nolan movies that I watch, or I don't know, like any other like epic Star Wars film, or, you know, like cool dramas like The Green Mile or Shawshank Redemption, things like that, you know. But I still think it's fun, so I would probably give this movie like an 83.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I echo a lot of the same points as you. The reason I like this movie more than you, I think, is because I'm not a big fan of comedy either. Like, for the most part, you know, we've talked about this. You know, This Is the End was a good example. I'm just not a big fan of those kind of movies. This was different for me because this was more about just having fun, more so than just, I didn't really rely on like individual jokes to get me through the movie. I relied more on just like the actual fun of like the tagging stuff. Like I just really enjoy, I think it's a really neat concept. I think it's really cool, especially that it's based on a true story. And I really enjoyed that part of it. And I really liked the whole Jerry, like the, you know, the whole like, you know, everything about it, like the scenes, like the narration, the music, you know, like the intimidation factor of Jerry. Like I just love that in this movie. As I said, I liked a lot of the characters in this movie outside of Cheryl. She was
Yeah, that's a good point.
unnecessary
That's a
in my
good point.
opinion. I do want to point that out. That was my one major gripe with this movie. I feel like she was not needed in this movie.
There we go, gripe. Using that word again. I like it.
I have a gripe. I have to use the word. But I like this movie all in all. I think it taught a good lesson. That friendships are more important than competition at the end of the day.
Yep.
I just really enjoy it. Now, I don't agree with one of my buddies that it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and it's not on par with the top tier, even the second tier movies I don't think that I've ever seen. But I think it definitely deserves a place, in out of the more lighthearted movies that I've ever watched, and like not necessarily like complex storytelling sort of movies, right? It's a simpler movie. Like when you watch a movie, if it's like a more complex plot-driven movie or written movie, or just a simpler, more fun entertainment movie. And that's one of these. And I think this is one of the best ones that I've seen in recent memory. So, I have to give this, Connor, I have to let this sneak in at a low A-, or I think I have to give it a 90. it's really fun. It's definitely below the best of the best, definitely below, the best complex, early directed and written movies. But it's just really fun, and it's one of the best movies I've seen at being fun. And I could rewatch this movie with my family, or like my siblings or something, and to have fun watching it. It's just a fun movie overall. So I could definitely, it's one of those movies that I could rewatch again with different people, and that's why I've seen it multiple times.
Interesting. It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like this is a really fun movie, and I think it's a great movie to like sit down and watch with people, especially if they're like your friends, and it's like you just want to have fun. Yeah. Sit down and make fun of them, characters or whatever, you're there on like a Friday night with your buddies from college or whatever, you're just watching this movie. I guess my difference from me to you though is that like I don't feel like I could rewatch this movie a ton of times because I feel like I would just get bothered by the parts that bother me too much. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally agree. I think the more you watch a movie, if you have like small problems, they'll be like, you'll just notice them more when you rewatch. Mm-hmm. So that definitely makes sense.
Unless it's the prequels, Star Wars prequels, then we can just enjoy the flaws in that all day long.
We can enjoy the flaws of 3, not 1 and 2. Okay.
Okay. Dude, no, we can make fun of it, right? Right?
We can make fun of it with a tear rolling down our face. Just sad that we have to make fun of it. Right. But yes, we can. But Connor, I think that just about does it for this week's episode. I think that we covered a lot of this movie. I think it was just a really fun movie. I'm glad we got to watch it this week and review it this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any final thoughts, but if you don't, we can just about wrap it up for this week.
No. I think I'm good. We have 2 comedies in 3 weeks, so nice surprise for you guys. We'll be back next week with something indeed. I don't know what yet.
Can you tell us, Connor, is it a comedy or not?
Let me just look at my movie poster over there. Not a comedy.
Not a comedy. All right, well, thank you for that. We can look forward to something not a comedy. But until that time, until next week, we will see you guys then. So hope you enjoyed episode 20, and we'll be back in a week.
Bye.